बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अस्सलामुअलैकुम। तो जनाब हाज़िर हैं एक नई इन्फॉर्मेटिव वीडियो में। आज की जो वीडियो है बेसिकली हाल ही में हमारे जो फ़ॉरेन मिनिस्टर जो बिलावल भुट्टो ज़रदारी साहब हैं, वो अभी रीसेंट जो है उन्होंने यूएन के जो प्लेटफॉर्म है, जो वहाँ पे कॉन्फ्रेंस थी, उसमें उन्होंने पाकिस्तान को रिप्रेजेंट किया और वहाँ पे उन्होंने बहुत ही ज़बरदस्त स्पीच अपनी दी, जिसमें उन्होंने वाज़े जो है जो अभी हमारे वॉर इन टेरर की जो मामला और टेररिज्म के हवाले से वाज़े उन्होंने कर दी हैं चीज़ें, जिसमें उन्होंने कहा ओसामा बिन लादेन को तो हमने ख़त्म कर दिया, बट गुजरात का जो कसाई है वो अभी भी ज़िंदा है। तो इनके इस बयान की वजह से इंडिया में काफ़ी गम गुस्सा पाया जाता है और वहाँ पे जो है प्रोटेस्ट चल रहा है। इवन जो हमारे वहाँ पे जो फॉरेन ऑफिस है, वहाँ पे जो है उन्होंने जो इंतहा पसंद आरएसएस है और इंतहा पसंद जो उनकी तंजीमें हैं, उन्होंने वहाँ पे जो है प्रोटेस्ट जो है वहाँ पे करना शुरू कर दिया है। तो वो भी आपको दिखाएंगे और इंडिया के प्रोटेस्ट को भी दिखाएंगे और उनकी स्पीच भी दिखाएंगे, जो मैंने एक न्यूज़ चैनल से कैप्चर किया है और एक इंडियन चैनल से मैंने जो है कैप्चर किया है, वो हम आपको दिखाएंगे। लेकिन उसके लिए जो मेरे चैनल पे आने वाले हैं वो प्लीज़ चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर लें और बेल आइकन को प्रेस कर लें, ताकि हर मेरी इंफॉर्मेटिव ऐसे जो कंटेंट है उसका आपको बासानी नोटिफिकेशन मिल सके। तो व्यूअर्स चलते हैं इस वीडियो पे, मुलाहिज़ा कीजिए।
Heaven forbid if there's a terrorist attack, and that no Indian should have to worry that their family, their kids won't be able to come home as a result of some terrorist attack. I thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Foreign Minister of Pakistan. We will open the floor for question. Before I open the floor, I would request to raise one question at a time so that we can give time to other participants. If we will be left with some time, we will take follow-up questions. So let's start with Valeria.
Thank you, Mariam.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Foreign Minister, on behalf of the United Nations Correspondent Association for this press conference. Valeria Robecco from ANSA News Agency. So, in your opinion, does the recent international events reinforce the need for a review of some functioning mechanism of the UN, including the reform of the Security Council, and what kind of feedback have you received in response to the Uniting for Consensus Group's effort in this regard, in this direction? Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think as far as reform at the United Nations is concerned, Pakistan has been clear and consistent since 1995. Since 1995, we've been supporting and working with the UFC group in hoping that is the direction that reform at the United Nations will take place. Obviously, others have a different view. I strongly and fundamentally believe in multilateralism, in the United Nations. I think the best of humanity can be achieved when we're working together. But I also believe that any reform of the United Nations must be a democratization of the United Nations. It has to fundamentally, we have to sort of demonstrate the equality between states, not accentuate the inequality between states. I don't believe that an expansion of permanent members, I don't believe that more people being able to wield the veto is the solution to our problems. We've seen, be it Iraq, be it Ukraine, be it various issues at the United Nations Security Council. It is the permanent members, their outside influence, their ability to veto, that has hampered the smooth functioning, if it were, of the United Nations. And this is what we believe is the problem, and certainly not the solution.
Thank you, Miriam. Ambassador, Foreign Minister, it's Pamela Falk from CBS News. Nice to see you again. The UN funding for the for the floods
Yeah.
is very low. It's about somewhere around 30% and may run out. And in an interview in the last day, you said Pakistan also has energy insecurity, is not taking reduced rates from Russia. How can you bridge the gap if the UN isn't coming through and other subsidies are not coming through?
So
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me break it down in for you as far as the floods are concerned. This is, I mean, the sheer scale. I was here now 2 months ago, and I'm back again. At that time, a third of the country was underwater, but today, still parts of my country are underwater. Parts of Sindh, parts of Balochistan are still underwater. They've missed not just the one crop that they lost last time, but this time around also the wheat crop. So economically for them, this is absolutely devastating. From the areas where the water has receded, there's devastation left in their wake. We have the health crisis that I was talking about last time has manifested in various ways. But for example, our malaria season is going on for an extended period because waterborne diseases are still spreading as a result of the water still being there. We have an education crisis just in my home province of Sindh. It's one of the 4 provinces of Pakistan, but it's the most devastated from the floods. 47% of my province's school infrastructure, educational infrastructure, is either partly or completely damaged from the floods. And my province's 52% of my province's school-going children who used to go to school, and those 47% of the school buildings cannot go to school. So there's a climate emergency, there's a health emergency, there's an education emergency. It is an absolutely monumental task. As far as the relief efforts go, along with the United Nations and the international community, we're doing the best we can and to provide relief for the people. Within Pakistan, through the Benazir Income Support Program, we've provided cash transfers, particularly to women who've been affected. Through USAID and the United Nations, other forms of support is getting through, but the scale is so large that no matter what we do, we feel that more needs to be done. But that's the relief aspect, which has been ongoing, and now we'll need to continue to progress through the winter months with its unique challenges. Then we have to look towards the reconstruction and the rehabilitation, and we would like to do so, reconstruct, rehabilitate, invest in this infrastructure, but do so in a greener, more climate resilient manner. We're incredibly grateful to the Secretary General of the United Nations, who will be co-hosting a conference for climate-resistant Pakistan on January 9th in Geneva, where we will kick off this initiative. It'll be the start, not the end, of our ambition to rebuild a climate resilient Pakistan. The scale of the damages, just to summarize for you finally, has been estimated at $30 billion, about 10% of our GDP. A conservative estimate is $16 billion are necessary for the reconstruction and rehabilitation. I'm under no delusion that we'll be able to gather this money through one conference or in one day, or through one event. This is going to be an ongoing process that we kick off with the UN Secretary General in early January.
And on the energy?
So on energy, so as part of a flood reconstruction rehabilitation, we are looking to for a catalyst for it to play as a catalyst for our green energy transition, and hopefully not only with the international community but also with the public sector, private partnerships, private sector, to work on green energy, on solar energy, on wind energy within Pakistan. Overall, we do have energy insecurity and an energy problem. We import far too many hydrocarbons. That bill for Pakistan and for the people of the Pakistan is too expensive to afford. It is something that is getting increasingly expensive, and after the fallout of COVID and supply chains issues, and then now the Ukraine crisis has absolutely exacerbated that problem. We are committed to not only our transition to green energy, we want to focus more on domestically produced energy rather than imported hydrocarbons, but in the crisis of now, we will do whatever we can to meet our people's needs.
James?
James Bass from Al Jazeera. Can I ask you about Afghanistan? We're seeing harsher and harsher punishments from the Taliban. We're seeing women excluded from public life. Girls have not been allowed to go back to school. And in recent days, we've seen clashes taking place across one of the two main border points between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Is it time for Pakistan to reconsider its policy of engagement with the Taliban? Do you need to look at this again?
Okay, so as far as engagement is concerned, I believe not only Pakistan, but the international community must engage. I can't wish the Taliban away or Afghanistan away. They're a reality. They're there on my border. The modes and ways that we are engaging, the ways in which we are engaging, particularly within the Pakistani context and as far as the TTP, perhaps that can be reconsidered as far as strategy is concerned, as far as the way we put across our demands or what we expect from them. But we can't give up on engaging. I don't believe if I just turn my backs and stop talking and the rest of the world stop talking, that Afghanistan's issues will sort out themselves.
So how do you make the Taliban change its behavior?
Well, I remember, first of all, our interview the last time I was here. It went very well. I think in that I tried to argue that we've got a sort of chicken and egg situation. The economic situation in Afghanistan is dire. The humanitarian situation is incredibly alarming. It's this organization, it's the United Nations, that has said that 97% of their people will fall below the poverty line. I know of horrific stories. You hear of child marriages. No, they're not marrying off their young girls out of choice or because they want to. It's because they physically can't afford to feed their children. And they think it's better to have a child marriage so that someone can take care of their little girls. I've heard horrible stories about how parents are drugging their children to sleep because they have to go to sleep hungry. I want women's rights more than anyone. I believe that within the Islamic world, it is our religion that before many other religions granted rights to women. It is my country that produced the first Muslim female prime minister. We will not compromise on women's rights. But I want to also be practical about how we can achieve that. I do not believe we can starve the Afghans to force them to follow women's empowerment or to deliver on these promises. I believe that there needs to be not only humanitarian assistance, but the conducive economic environment to allow those who do want to deliver on their promises to themselves and on the international community vis-a-vis women's rights, the political space to do so. I think history has demonstrated that whenever in the past in autocratic, theocratic regimes, when the economic times are tough, then rights are usurped, contracted rather than expanded. I don't believe that with the Afghans' money frozen, with their banking channels shut, we will see progress on this and other issues. In my conversations, well, not my conversations, but conversations that happen with the government, the interim government of Afghanistan or their representatives, we do emphasize on the need for them to deliver on not my promise or your promise, on their promise to the international community, which includes inclusiveness, rights to women and girls, particularly in the education context, ensuring that their country, their soil is not used to perpetuate terrorism. I believe that we can achieve those goals through engagement. It's been 1 year since they've taken over Afghanistan. I'm sure that 1 year is an incredibly long time for the women of Afghanistan, for the girls of Afghanistan, but it is still 1 year. I'm hopeful that with further engagement, with not only ourselves, but working with the international community, through the OIC and other organizations, that we hopefully will be able to convince them to implement their own promises.
Mr. Azim.
Mr. Foreign Minister, Azim Mia from GeoTV
Ji,
and Jan
Janab.
Group. a war of words is going on between the Indian Foreign Minister and the Pakistani Foreign Minister. Just a few minutes back, Indian Foreign Minister accused Pakistan of terrorism, and Pakistan has been submitting so many dossiers to different authorities, different organizations, including the UN, but with no result so far. So how long the Kabul, Delhi, and Islamabad are going to face this war of terrorism against each other? And secondly, do you foresee any kind of rise in tensions because Pakistan is in a vulnerable situation and there is a war of words between you and the Indian Foreign Minister over here? Will it turn into any kind of rise in the tensions along the borders?
I don't believe we're in a war of words. Are we in a war of words? I haven't noticed. I want to be very careful because I actually didn't catch the statement that you're referring to.
Just now he made at the stakeout.
Oh, okay, well, that I disagree. It's pretty safe to say. Look, I'm the foreign minister of Pakistan. And Pakistan's foreign minister is a victim of terrorism, is the son of Shaheed Mohtamma Benazir Bhutto. The prime minister of Pakistan, Shahbaz Sharif, when he was CM of Punjab, his home minister was assassinated by terrorists. Political parties, civil society, the average people in Pakistan, across the board, have been the victims or the perpetrators of terrorism. We've lost far more lives to terrorism than India has. Why would we want our own people to suffer? We absolutely do not. Unfortunately, I think India has been playing in that space that I referred to earlier in my statement, where it's very easy to say Muslim and terrorists together and get the world to agree. And they very skillfully blur this line, where people like myself are associated with terrorists, rather than as those who have been fighting and to this day are fighting terrorism. As far as India is concerned, they've had terrorist attacks. They too should not have had to experience terrorist attacks. Whatever cooperation they need, we've offered in the past, we can, would like to continue to offer in the future. But they continuously perpetuate this philosophy. And it's not just for Pakistan, it's for the Muslims in India. We're terrorists whether we're Muslims in Pakistan, and we're terrorists whether we're Muslims in India. I'd like to remind the Honorable Foreign Minister or the Minister for External Affairs of India that Osama bin Laden is dead, but the butcher of Gujarat lives. And he is the Prime Minister of India. He was banned from entering this country until he became Prime Minister. This is the Prime Minister of the RSS and the Foreign Minister of the RSS. What is the RSS? The RSS draws its inspiration from Hitler's SS. The RSS, I saw yesterday that the Foreign Minister of India was with the UN Secretary General inaugurating a statue of Gandhi. But if the Foreign Minister of India was being honest, then he knows as well as I that the RSS does not believe in Gandhi, in the ideology of Gandhi, in the manifesto of Gandhi. They do not see this individual as the founder of India. They hero worship the terrorist that assassinated Gandhi. Within India, who perpetuates terrorism? Is it Pakistan? Ask the people of Gujarat. They will say it's their Prime Minister. Ask the people of Kashmir. They will say the butcher of Gujarat is now the butcher of Kashmir. And I'm not talking about some imaginary past. I'm talking about today. They are not even attempting to wash the blood of people of Gujarat off their hands for their own election campaigns. They have pardoned. Prime Minister Modi and his government have used their authority to pardon the men who perpetrated rape against Muslims in Gujarat, who conducted the gang rape of women in Gujarat. Those rapists, those terrorists were freed, were pardoned. But the Prime Minister of India, this is the truth of the matter. So in order for them to perpetuate their politics of hate, their Hindu supremacist transition from a secular India to the Hindu supremacist India, this narrative is very important for them. It's very important for them domestically, and it's very important for them internationally. They demonize the people of Pakistan. They expect the world to believe that we are all terrorists. I know we are not. And I have presented this dossier. I'm not talking about whenever well back Gujarat was. I'm talking about 2021. When we have proof that your government facilitated a terrorist attack in Pakistan. So I don't see how Pakistan is the epicenter of terrorism. I do believe that we are the victims of terrorism. If it's not the government of India, certainly the people of India have been victims of terrorism. The people of Afghanistan have been victims of terrorism. The people of the United States, the people of Europe have been the victims of terrorism. And it's for us to work together to combat the politics of hate, to combat whether it's Islamic extremism or Hindu extremism, to come together and face these challenges and not pursue narrow populism, religious populism, divisive politics domestically or internationally, and to further spread hate within communities. Otherwise, it's not just this generation, all the generations to come will continue in this cycle that we see ourselves.
Sir, second part of my
Abdul
question,
Hamid
is there
Siam,
any
we will
possibility
take
of
follow-up
rising
question
tensions?
later. Azim Mia, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Siam.
Thank you. Welcome, Foreign Minister. Thank you, Mariam, and thank you, Ambassador Munir. My name is Abdul Hamid Siam from the Arabic daily Al-Quds Al-Arabi. I have many questions, but Mariam ordered us to confine our...
So.
I cannot. And my question about internal issues in
Sure.
Pakistan. Recently, there was an attempt to murder Imran Khan. It seems that he is still popular. There are many people supporting him. When he calls for a rally, he receives hundreds of thousands of people. So how do you explain what happened? Who was behind it? What does the investigation say about the attempt?
I think there's two parts of your investigation. As far as the attack on Mr. Khan is concerned, I would like to once again emphasize to the Punjab government in Pakistan that it's incredibly important. This is not just an attack on Mr. Imran Khan, this is an attack on a former Prime Minister. It's not about political differences. We want to see the facts. And there's an investigation on the provincial level ongoing that needs to show results. On the federal level, the Prime Minister has written to our superior judiciary to investigate the matter. As far as Mr. Khan's popularity, that's where I'll contest you. Because we all saw him and his march in Pindi. Hundreds of thousands of people did not gather. A few thousand people gathered. In a country with 200 million people, I believe that any one of our political parties can organize a political function on the scale that Mr. Khan has. A popular leader was Shaheed Mohtarma Benazir Bhutto, who landed in Pakistan in 1986 and still holds the record to this day of the largest political gathering with 3 million people received her at the airport. Our population today is far beyond that. Mr. Khan is particularly well versed, as most populists are, with social media. He uses that as a propaganda tool. And there were some by-elections held recently in Pakistan, about 9 by-elections. And these by-elections were for seats that Mr. Khan, as parliamentarians, resigned from the assembly. So in those seats, there were by-elections. And in those by-elections, Mr. Khan lost 3 of the seats he once held and won the rest. If I was in that situation, where my party had 10 by-elections and 9 by-elections in seats that are our seats, and I lost 3 of them, then I would be, quite worried about my prospects in the general elections.
Ibtisam.
Thank you, Mariam. Hi, my name is Ibtisam Azim from Al Arabi Al Jadid newspaper. I have first a very quick follow-up on James' question on Afghanistan and economics.
Sure.
Could you please elaborate a little bit more? What do you believe that need to be done? You touched a little bit upon the issue of frozen assets. So
yeah. So one frozen assets, but also their banking channels, Asha. So there's economic activity or their projects that were sort of pending from the old administration, and all of a sudden they can't function because people's bank accounts don't work. I believe this is sort of unnecessarily cruel. If these economic activities were to take place, they provide job opportunities to the people of Afghanistan that would benefit not only the men but the women of Afghanistan as well. So I think it's incredibly important for us to, at least on that front, facilitate the functioning of their economy so that there can be some activity for them to withstand the shocks that we're all facing, difficult economic times everywhere.
And when talking with the Americans or other leaders, what do you hear in response on that issue?
I get it. It's difficult, particularly in Western countries, particularly in DC or in Westminster, to convince your parliaments to continue, whether it's to continue humanitarian funding or to ensure progress on these fundamental economic points, given the perceptions of the Taliban and their history. It's very difficult to convince their congresses and their parliaments about this chicken and egg situation that I tried to explain to James about what comes first. And therefore, I think those are the sort of challenges that they do face, that this is where we're trapped. They say, no, you deliver on women's rights first before we can move anywhere. And those of us who are watching the sort of situation on the ground are extremely concerned that if we don't even see this minimal progress, then women's education and an expansion of women's rights in Afghanistan will be a distant dream.
Shu. Yeah.
Hi, Minister. This is the...
BJP activists protesting at the Pakistan High Commission in Delhi after attacks against Prime Minister Modi and the RSS by Pakistan Foreign Minister. India has called the remarks uncivilized and a new low even for Pakistan.
This is the Prime Minister of the RSS and the Foreign Minister of the RSS. What is the RSS? The RSS draws its inspiration from Hitler's SS.
High-profile BJP leaders, including ministers, hit back at Pakistan, calling it a failed state.
जिस तरीके की भाषा का प्रयोग पाकिस्तान के विदेश मंत्री ने किया है, वो केवल एक दिवालिये देश को रिप्रेजेंट नहीं करते, बल्कि वो अपने मानसिक दिवालियेपन का भी परिचय दे रहे हैं. एक पंजाबी में कहावत है, शायद पाकिस्तान में लोगों को समझ आएगी, कौवा ते कहते टोरनी मरते.
The protests in Delhi follow a war of words in New York, where Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar bluntly called out Pakistan's support for terrorism.
You're asking the wrong minister when you say how long will we do this, because it is the ministers of Pakistan who will tell you how long Pakistan intends to practice terrorism.
The rebuttal coming in the face of Pakistan's junior foreign minister Hina Rabbani Har, playing both victim and gaslighting India.
No country has benefited from it better than India.
Give the floor to His Excellency.
Directly responding to that, Jaishankar called Pakistan the epicenter of terrorism.
That if you have snakes in your backyard, you can't expect them to bite only your neighbors. Eventually, they will bite the people who keep them in the backyard.
The pace and the series of all these clashes between the top diplomats of the two nuclear powers have been the sharpest in some time. In New Delhi, Maha Siddiqui for NDTV.
तो व्यूवर्स, आपने देखा हमारे वज़ीर ख़ारजा बिलावल भुट्टो ज़रदारी साहब की स्पीच भी आपको दिखाई और इंडिया वालों को भी दिखाई जो वहाँ पे प्रोटेस्ट चल रहा है. तो बेसिकली जो हक़ाइक़ हैं उस पर उन्होंने बात करी है. अब इसमें बुरा लगा या अच्छा लगा, लेकिन बात अगर रियलिटी की जाए तो ये कहाँ का इंसाफ है कि यार आपने जो है कश्मीर की हैसियत चेंज कर दी, वहाँ पे आपने जो है कर्फ्यू नाफिज किया, कितने दिन तक, और अभी भी क्या सिचुएशन है आई डोंट नो कि वहाँ के क्या हालात हैं. आपने वहाँ की हैसियत चेंज कर दी, वहाँ पे लोगों पे तरह तरह के मजालिम कर रहे हैं. वहाँ के जितने भी लीडरान थे, वहाँ के जितने भी जो पॉलिटिशियंस थे, ان سب کو آپ نے قید کر دیا. تو یہ کہاں کا انصاف ہے؟ اور رہا تعلق یہ جو 71 کا پاکستان کو بھرم کرواتے ہیں، تو میں ان سے صرف ایک بات بولوں گا کہ انڈیا کبھی بھی اکیلے جنگ نہیں لڑ سکتا. اتنی کیپیسٹی نہیں ہے انڈیا میں. انڈیا ہمیشہ آپ کے کندھے پہ رکھ کے وار کر سکتا ہے اور پیچھے سے وار کر سکتا ہے. کبھی بھی جو ہے انڈیا سامنے سے آپ سے کبھی وار نہیں کرے گا. یہ ان کی کوالٹی. اور رہا تعلق 71 میں بھی ان کی ناپاک سازشوں کی وجہ سے جو ہے آج ہمارا جو ایسٹ پاکستان جو بنگلہ دیش ہے وہ ہم سے الگ ہوا. تو یہ ان کے ساتھ مل کے انہوں نے کیا. اگر اکیلے میں ہوتا تو کب کا ان کو تو اچھا خاصا ان کو تو پتہ لگ جاتا ہے ان کو. تو بہرحال ان کی سے باتیں ہوتی ہیں، عملی طور پہ یہ صفر ہے. بھائی ہمارا تو ایک چھوٹا سا ملک ہے، تو تم لوگ کی ناک میں دم کیا ہوا ہے. اگر تمہاری ایسی بڑی ریاست ہوتی ہے، سوچو ہم لوگ کیا کرتے. تم ہمیں بولتے ہو کہ ہم ڈیفالٹ ہو رہے ہیں. ارے بھائی پہلے اپنا تو دیکھو حال. اپنے تمہارے کیا برے حال ہوئے. دوسروں کے گریبان میں یا دوسروں کے معاملات میں انٹرفیئر کرنے میں اپنے لوگوں پہ توجہ دو، اپنی عوام پہ توجہ دو، اپنے معاملات سیدھے کرو. ہمارے وزیر خارجہ نے بالکل بہترین بیان دیا. جتنے بھی یہاں پہ وارن ٹیرر کے جتنے بھی واقع ہیں اس میں انڈیا ملوث ہے. میرے پہلے بھی آپ بلاگ اگر دیکھنا چاہیں تو آپ دیکھ سکتے ہیں. اس میں ہمارے وزیر دفاع جو ہیں رانا ثناء اللہ صاحب نے بھی اس چیز کی جو ہے پوری مذمت کی ہے، اور انہوں نے ڈسپلے بھی کیا ہے انہوں نے نیوز پہ آ کے. تو مسئلہ سارا یہی ہے کہ ہمارے 4 صوبے والا ملک پھر بھی جو ہے نا انڈیا کے اوپر بھاری ہے ہمارا ملک. تو بہرحال ولاگ کو یہیں اینڈ کرتے ہیں. کافی لمبی ڈیبیٹ ہو گئی ہے، بہت لمبا یہ ولاگ ہو گیا. اسی کے ساتھ ہی ویڈیو کو اینڈ کرتے ہیں. اگر میری ویڈیو پسند آئی ہے تو اس کو لائک، شیئر اور چینل کو سبسکرائب کر لیے گا. اسی کے ساتھ دیجیے عفان ریاض خان کو اجازت. اللہ حافظ.